Hello, everyone. I think many of you have been looking forward to this segment, so welcome, Vasu. We're delighted to have you.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to see you both. It's great to see so many of you, too.
So I thought we would I thought we would open just with a couple minutes of getting to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
So maybe you could just tell us about your responsibilities today as the Chief Commercial Officer at American Airlines. What are the functions you oversee?
Yeah. Well, it's like I tell my son's friends, the Chief Commercial Officer doesn't make commercials. But what my team does is we're in charge of the planning and scheduling of the airline. It's pricing, yield management, selling distribution strategies, Advantage, our frequent flyer program, and all of our customer experience, including digital reservations, any of our customer-facing policies and strategies, and last but not least, all of our airline partnerships with air, credit card partners, or even travel retailers.
It's a big remit.
Yeah.
And so just a little bit more background. You came out of college and went into teaching.
I did. Yeah. I graduated from the University of Texas in the late 90s. I sold all my things. I traveled the world for a year, and then I did Teach for America. I taught in Baltimore City schools for 3 years. And then from there, made my way to American.
That's right. So it's been about 20 years, right, at American?
That's right.
And
20 years in August, in fact.
A wide variety of roles. And I'm curious how those experiences in the various roles that you've held over the years, how that formed your current strategy, your thinking, kind of lessons learned as you had those different roles at American, getting you to today.
Lauri, I think that's an excellent question. And one that though I wasn't preparing for, I think is one worthy to ask, because really, when you think about my 20 years at American Airlines, is actually corresponded with a very interesting time for maybe the airlines in specific, but travel at large, because travel, and especially air travel, has gone through so much trial and tribulation. I mean, I started in the wake of September 11th. There was the great financial crisis, bankruptcy, mergers. So, I mean, everybody here gets the idea. But I'll maybe connect this with where I suspect you're going next. And I'll offer this for everybody. This may be a little more answer than you bargained for, but I think it's probably helpful for you and the team here. But if you think about it, it's like what I really learned over having 20 years and a variety of functions, finance, planning, customer relations, whatever it is, all across the airline, is what our industry was for a long time and what it's been over the last 20-ish years are very different, right? And I'll give you my brief alternative history, as I like to tell it. Think of it like this. At one point, Kitty Hawk happens. About 40 years later, the jet engine is created. It's the middle of the 20th century, and suddenly travel as we know it is born. But think of travel at its core of what it is, right? It's like if it was a product business, in the middle of the 20th century, you've got a product, travel, where there's unlimited SKUs. Like, you can conceive of travel in infinity ways. And the buyers are as many as there are humans. Let's call it 300 million humans. Well, how do you go and connect unlimited product to almost unlimited buyers in the 50s or the 60s? And if you think about what our predecessors did back then, is the first thing was the creation of what we call today the global distribution systems, right? Which, call it for what it is, that was a distributed network technology. They were solving the problem of the internet before the internet existed. In some ways, the travel business kind of predated that. It created industry bodies for managing a global payments network, or the distribution of fares when you have millions of SKUs, billions of SKUs, whatever the case might be. And a lot of these things that we did were the technology hadn't caught up to the problem of its time. And if you fast forward that, I realized, at least through all of my history, you can add to that when American Airlines created pricing and yield management, which today would probably be considered the first installment of machine learning or artificial intelligence or something like that. Advantage, the loyalty program, the first installment of a wide-scale industrial-grade customer database and CRM tool. But then when you think about these last 20 years, like the pace of innovation, at least by the standards of travel, were way different than those, let's call it, first 100 or so years. And I'd argue that what changed is in those first 100 years, the fundamental focus amongst everyone in travel was the customer, the person who's actually spending their money to travel. And in the last 20 years, a lot of it, understandably, was on survival. And certainly, and this is where it probably connects to where you and so many people here are going next, is for us, what we kind of realized as we went through the pandemic is, wait, lo and behold, our history as travel professionals, all of us, not just American Airlines, is that our true north is the customer. The customer values travel. Travel is one of the as we call it, the highest of the hierarchy of goods. I mean, it is the thing that people most desire. It is great. And lo and behold, in the last 20 years, while we probably haven't changed very much, the internet was created, and every other person who sells availed themselves of that. And what the internet can do is solve the problems of 50 years ago. And what customers want today is the ability to shop and service their product through the internet, the way they can with a home or a car or a bottle of water. And therefore, at American Airlines, what we have to do is kind of fulfill a part of our history, which is take a much more active role in doing what's right for our customers and taking a leadership position. And so that has actually shaped, maybe now that you mention it like that, certainly my history at the company, but I'm not alone in that. I think a lot of people at American Airlines would tell you the exact same thing, really shaped that where we're going is we can, like, travel can be great for customers. We can use the internet in exactly the same way other industries can. It can be good for everybody within travel, and it can bring about more choices and lower prices and better servicing, just as it has in any other industry. So, like I said, more answer than you bargained for, but hopefully that sets up where you guys may be going next, I suspect.
No, absolutely. That's great. Thanks.
So, Vasu, I have to ask the pregnant question. American has been at the forefront of technology, and especially in alternative distribution, for over 20 years at this point. I think back at my time at Orbitz, we built the TravelConnect
Totally
24 years ago.
Yeah.
Being at the forefront is not without its pain. You've taken some arrows doing it. Is it worth it?
Well, look, I would answer that in reference to my earlier comments. If your true north is your customer, then your greatest risk is not giving your customer what they want. And it is powerful. I mean, the person who is actually spending their money to travel, the small business who, in the pandemic, they didn't have access to any other form of help. They had to sell product in order to go and earn a living. And when you see that, you realize, well, no, the real risk is not giving what they want. But what they want is something really simple when it comes to travel distribution. They want the same thing they get in any other industry they're a part of. And so for us, the big risk is we need to go and evolve. And we, as all of us, we need to evolve to a world where we give the customers what they want. And it's easy by American Airlines. And the tools and technology of NDC make that more possible. Fundamentally, the internet's what enables that. And so the first step is, all right, really defining us so that we are focused on our customers, and anything that they can buy, certainly by the end of this year, will be able to be serviced digitally through our tools. We intend to roll that out as much as we can through NDC customers, but it's only through the internet that we can do it. And the next step, and one thing that we're actively involved in for any of our retailing partners here or elsewhere, is helping the travel industry transition to it. We are keen, almost, in fact, all of our agency-related initiatives are about trying to make the transition to NDC as riskless as possible for them and as beneficial as possible for our joint customers. Because we know that there's customers who want to go shop at an agency. We want customers to be able to shop at an agency, but we try to equip them with as many financial incentives as possible. We're actually really encouraged about where some of that is going. And contrary to what may get reported publicly, I think there's a lot of agencies, a lot more than maybe meet the eye, who are very front-footed about doing what's right for customers and really embracing what the internet can mean as a retailing tool.
No, very good.
Just to continuing on the topic of customer experience, curious about how is American thinking about differentiating the customer experience? So, you're in one way, helping the whole industry move towards taking advantage of all of the capabilities of the internet, truly.
Absolutely.
But there's also differentiation, I imagine. And May 1st is coming up. I think that's one point of, that's a milestone date in terms of mileage points being accrued through certain direct channel and through preferred agencies. That's just one example, maybe. But what else is going on?
Absolutely. Look, tops of the list is defining customer and defining experience, right? And I'm not trying to be cute by saying that, but look, everybody certainly in the airlines, in all of travel has been around this for so long that oftentimes, and certainly what I found along the 20 years of my career was how stunning it was at different partners, whether it was a retail partner, an air partner, or even within American Airlines, that people could use the word customer and varyingly be talking about a transaction, a payment, a travel agency, a supplier, an online booking tool, whatever. But the customer, and we learned it frankly the hard way. When you lose 90% of your revenues in the pandemic, the really bizarre thing is the 10% that stays, that's your day zero customer. And that customer for us is somebody who is like, they're spending their money, their company's money to go and make a travel decision. And once you know that, then it's like, okay, the first thing they need is access to travel, which is network, our partnerships with air and hotel providers, all of that. Without that, that is the fundamental problem you solve for them. And then the next thing is they want to be rewarded for travel, where that reward is, for us, how we go and give miles. So we want to make it as easy as possible for customers to be our best customer. They earn miles in using the internet, buying higher value products, having status, using our credit cards. But also, those miles take them farther. So we have not devalued our miles. In fact, we typically have the best redemption, highest value for it. And what we've been very focused on is experience, where what experience should be is no matter who you are with American Airlines, it should be convenient and connected and consistent for everyone, but it should be differentiated for customers who are in advantage. And the more status should lead to more differentiation. And we find it in our highest, most tier of Concierge Key, or the next one, Executive Platinum. What we find is that what people like the most is not the number of times their upgrade clears, it's their special service. That they know that they get superior reaccommodation if their flight is delayed or interrupted. They know that I was just at the DCA airport. We have 4 clubs there. None of them have a wait. We don't restrict access into the clubs. And more of what we do is we know who our customer is, and we have to go and fashion an experience which is really consistent for everyone and differentiated for people in advantage.
Yeah,
so it's all in on getting to know that customer, which means getting them into your loyalty program.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And looking for so many of our customers, they want that. The most intriguing thing to me, as so at this point we're intaking between 70 to 80% of our revenues through direct to American Airlines or through NDC, through internet-based sources. But what is really stunning to me is that the net promoter scores of people who shop through the internet are somewhere between 12 to 15 points higher than those who don't. However you might cut it, like for like customers, people who shopped in one channel then moved to the other. And once somebody actually services through the app or digital, it is the most significant thing. And we see net promoter scores that can go stretch into the 90s when that happens. And you look at it, on the one hand, it's eye-opening, but really on the other hand, it's actually very consistent with the experience that happens. I mean, my guess is a ton of people here have bought probably cars or homes or toys or anything off of the internet, groceries, you name it.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So, Chief Commercial Officer, I don't envy your job. You live in a world of constantly fluctuating fuel prices, government regulations changing, ever-changing consumer preferences. How do you manage in a constantly changing world?
Well, it's funny. This too, I've learned over 20 years of I'll call it the ups and downs of the crisis of the airline business. Sometimes it kind of feels like we could get the 100-year flood every 100 days or something like that. But really, it is knowing what your true north is. Because if you get caught up in the highs and the lows, I mean, you're never as good as you want to be, nor as bad as you fear you might. But it's ultimately where you go. Like, what are you doing this for? And I would argue that American, or the chief commercial officer at American, isn't unique in. It's just that I get to go and articulate it. But I think anybody in travel does this. That I think that we fulfill one of the greatest and best consumer goods there are, which is connecting people to travel. My guess is the best things in your life have been on the other end of travel. However, whether it's a business meeting or accepting a job or going to the birth of a child or a graduate, whatever it might be. And that's such a massive thing. And when you can see that and you understand, okay, well, how do we give customer access to travel, reward them for use it, create an ecosystem where they want to go and do it? That's a really powerful thing. And it's all the more powerful when you look at it today, because there's more and more people coming to travel than ever before. And there are more and more people where even though business travel as we historically knew it, where you wake up at 4 a.m. and do a day trip, may be down, people are spending more of their own money buying first-class fares, and they want special services. They want to go and have experiences that one would have never thought possible 24 years ago when we were working on the Direct Connect. So the more you can see the true north, the better it is. And I would only add to it that the added maybe luxury that at American Airlines is when we do that well for our customers, we do that well for 100,000 employees at American Airlines, where, if and we can make a livelihood for those people that is far greater than what the airlines could in many times of past. And so we look forward to doing that as well.
So looking forward a little bit, what are the future growth opportunities for American Airlines?
That's an excellent question, Lauri. And really what I often say this back home, which is the way we grow is by getting to know our customers better. And what we find more and more is that there are so many customers who are, travel is a thing where customers have to self-solve a lot of things. I combine this airline with this hotel, with this, what have you. And I think I think we're the start of and crucially, I think that your organizations will be key to this, what could be a golden age for travel, because the internet can actually enable a customer to see infinity SKUs. So how do you put that together? How do you manage that well? And what the real growth is that you have the percentage of people who are actually going and travel is still probably small in terms of the global population. Maybe it's 1 or 2% of the global population, but they travel a lot and they have great interest in it. They want to be engaged with it a lot. And so the more you can know of them, the more it's the same customers who are actually traveling a lot more, who want to consume more services, who want to not just get the cheapest fare to go from DC to Dallas, but actually want a whole set of experiences around DC and Dallas. And lo and behold, the technology of our time enables that. And the thing that we have that so many other industries don't is organizations like ATPCO and ARC, which are effectively owner-operated organizations that are really there to fulfill this big consumer good.
Having come from a previous industry, the hotel world, we always recognize that very few of our customers ever actually traveled to stay at our hotel. We were one piece of the travel, and the purpose of visit was something else. There's probably very few customers who actually get on an airplane because they want to fly on an airplane. As you think about the transition to NDC and what that opens up for American, thinking about a larger part of the travel ecosystem. Any thoughts on how American can play once you kind of remove the shackles of the historical distribution world?
We have a great many, and in fact, look, many of them are already at play. And this is where I think that, ironically, though, I think air travel has probably been later to go and embrace the technologies that the internet makes available, and unlike how hotels or other suppliers have done. airlines have actually spent a lot of time trying to figure out how you connect, for example, the network of American Airlines to the network of Alaska Airlines and deliver a customer a seat assignment in a bag. And the more and more we avail ourselves of those tools and technologies, the easier it actually becomes to go and do it. And so the way we see this is, well, it's in one of two ways. One, if only a very small group of us truly go and embrace the internet, then that probably creates a great benefit for a small group of people where customers, you're 100% right. Any single brand within travel may be an intermediate good, but the collection of it, when it becomes an experience, can become a penultimate good. And we see that when we have a customer redeem for a single flight, but they redeem as part of an experience, they impute more value on the experience than they do on the single flight. That is the thing they will talk about. And once they book experience, they want to come back and buy more and more things from us. So if a very small group goes and embraces the power of the internet, a lot of consumer benefits will accrue there. If the entirety of the travel industry goes and does it, well, then I think that really could bring about a real golden age for what it means for customers. I think it could be potentially better for everyone.
Having been a concierge key member at one point, legitimately,
yes. I'm worried about what comes next now, Alex. Having been where the verbs were carefully chosen, Lauri.
I will say
this whole thing was a setup. Now I see it, Alex.
Oh, no. It was truly a differentiated experience. It really was. In fact, I flew once with my family.
By the way, he earned it. He didn't get it as being the head of ATPCO.
This was before
just
ATPCO.
So you know,
this was pre-ATPCO.
We don't do the friends and family discounts.
This was the hard way. I earned it the hard way. Yes, indeed. We were late. We were late on a connection, and they met us at the gate. Drove us on the car back, my whole family, to the next to make sure we got on. My family, for the first time and probably the last time ever, they thought I was actually important. I'm curious though. I took pictures. It was unbelievable. I was so impressed with the experience. I'm curious though. How do you scale that? How do you ensure that not everybody can obviously get that experience, but that you have that type of experience at every level within the organization?
Alex, what a great use case. I mean, and we didn't arrange that. I'm serious, because if I knew he was going to ask me about having been a CK, I wouldn't have come here. No, I'm joking. I probably would have because of Lauri, but no, it's funny what you described along the way in the pandemic. We did a version of that. We called it our customer use case, which is, in a bygone time, customer wakes up at 4 a.m. in Boston, flies to Dallas, flies home the next day. We give them tons of miles. We do everything to go and treat that customer in that moment as if it is the best thing that's ever happened. Well, there's not a lot of people who want to go leave their families and do all of those things, but that same customer goes and redeems miles to take their family to Hawaii. And then they don't get a seat assignment, then they don't get this, or they buy a basic economy fare to Orlando and they don't get to earn. It's like, wait. We called one business. We called the other one leisure. It was always Alex Zoghlin. And furthermore, what we looked at, it's like, wait. The important trip for Alex Zoghlin wasn't the one where he left his family. The important trip for Alex Zoghlin was the one where he took his family. Right. And so invert the whole thing from the eyes of the customer. Really, what we want to make it is so that in those moments where you redeem a mile, where you are with your family, that's what counts to you. Flying for business was what counted for us, but actually all of Alex, the entirety of that is the important thing. And so we talk about customers and knowing them. First of all, that is exactly what we mean. Two, when we talk about the experience, there you identified it. Actually, once we're earning and redeeming and offering status for the right things, and the right people get those experiences. What we realized in the pandemic was that 40% of our CKs were exceptions. And lo and behold, in the pandemic, none of them were flying. It was Alex Zoghlin. It was people starting a small business. It were people like that who were flying a lot and spending, financing the whole business with our credit card and things like that. But they weren't getting those. And so then we look at it now. It's like, well, actually, the thing with something like the services that you talked about, is actually those can be exactly what the technology of today can help scale. Because the more and more we have our technology doing the simple things of check-in or handling changes or things like that, the more we can deploy 100,000 people to go give great service at an airport. If you are a CK and you have to go and call res, you go through immediately. You get instantaneous service. I mean, the more the technology is there, the more we get to really unleash our people to give people that experience. And when that happens, well, the beauty of that is a business that can grow at a greater rate than airline capacity. If the only benefits that we give in our program are all related to capacity on the airline, that confines what the program growth can be. When it's service like that, think about it. You took pictures with your family. Your kids are going to be talking about it. I mean, think about it. That was a great travel experience, That is a great story, and it's almost verbatim our use case for it. And wow, what a curve! Like, I really thought I was going to have to explain the CK exception policy to him. Like, I can't do it. There's an audit process, man.
This is not a side way of me asking for CK.
Very good. That was very good. That was clearly not staged. That was
I think your team may have X'd that question out when we did some pre-work. So,
fair enough.
You got it
fair
in.
Enough.
So
now I would expect no less from Alex. I like it. That's
but
great.
I'm curious, are there any other future, customer experience enhancing initiatives that we can look forward to in the future that you're able to share about?
Let me not make news here, because that would get a lot of people mad at me back home. But I will say, probably consistent with what we've said here, what I said at the Investor Day, and what you'll hear from us in the next weeks and months is, look, the North Star is exactly that, the end customer. And there are more customers who are coming to travel than ever before. And as much as anything, what we're really keen on is building our partnerships so that we can go and address that. And the air partnerships are probably a lot, at least let's call them a lot more developed. I mean, we spend a lot of time with them. We run businesses in the same space, dealing with the same problems. A lot of our partnerships, we call them advantage partnerships with Citi and Barclays and things like that, also have a lot of future opportunity, because there are so many customers who may not travel the way they used to, but still want to earn CK and would happily go and spend on a card and, want a small business card, want a ton of other things. So there's great opportunity there. And then the third thing, which may be closest to the people here, is what we call our retailing partnerships, which is corporate travel managed corporate accounts, travel agencies, even ATPCO or ARC, anybody who facilitates this travel ecosystem where more customers can go and access it and access the kind of experiences that Alex has. Like let's give the end customer the best that the contemporary tools and digital technology can go and offer. And so we're really keen on using all of those partnerships to grow together, because, and we mean partnership as partnership. When we do that all together, we all get a benefit. And I think, frankly, it's happening right now, and we'll probably see a lot more of this after May 1, which is as more travel agencies go and embrace NDC and are driving more volumes through it. Not only are they getting more in incentive payment from American Airlines, they are having a better customer outcome. And frankly, they're creating a more competitive business for themselves. And some of the ones that are succeeding the most are, in some cases, like small and mid-sized businesses, not large publicly traded travel management companies. So anyways, I'll just say more to come on all of it, but so much of where we go in the future is both good for our partners and enabled by our partners.
Fantastic.
I have one more, if that's
Please.
okay. We've been skirting around it a little bit. A lot of what we've been talking about is the art of the possible. A lot of that requires data.
Yes.
Understanding your customer, understanding what their competitors are up to. Where is American on kind of really getting to understand that?
Well, so look, in the pandemic, I'll just say it like this. We not only did we sort of kind of, I'll say, rediscover our history, that we are here to solve this we're here to be a solution for our customers. What we also realize is not just, boy, you can sell and distribute through the internet, but behind it, there's a big technological infrastructure that we've got to go and rebuild. So we've actually spent a lot of time rebuilding the code base of .com and app, and beneath it, a lot of time, which we continue to spend on, just managing the data of our enterprise and increasingly centralizing not just the customer data, but the operational data of the enterprise. And it is vitally critical. But the principle that we always apply is the point of the data is to go and make a better customer outcome. And I say that because at least the airline business, arguably the travel business, has been so hyper obsessed with what its competition is doing that sometimes people will do things that are not always good for our customers, but because our competitors, like, think about the whole evolution and rollout of the basic economy product and a fare so odious somebody wouldn't want to buy. Like, what? That makes no sense when you think about it through the lens of the customer. And so a lot of what we're focused on with our data is that it's ensuring that it's secure, that it's protected for our customers, and that we use it in a way where we can properly steward the information. And that too, I mean, look, it's a major thing which your two organizations go and enable, which is not necessarily the competitive intel of who's doing what, but how do we as an ecosystem create a better customer outcome that's there. You guys, and in a way, that's really what maybe always what you guys have enabled. And now, lo and behold, we certainly look forward to partnering with you guys and taking advantage of all that you guys have done in your businesses with the 3 Vectors acquisition that wherever it may go.
Okay. If you had a magic wand with the right data, what's the number one problem you'd want to try to solve?
Oh, a magic wand with the right. That's dangerous. What my 15-year-old son is thinking. Yeah. That's what I'd like to know. I don't know. But my parents tell me that when I was a 15-year-old son, they concluded it wasn't very much. But my son, however, is a lot more capable than me, and there's a lot going on in that head. I just can't always figure it out, but that fascinates me. Not in a critical way. He's a special dude, but good special, not like me special, like the kind of nice thing you tell me at parties. Not that kind of special. Actually special. But no, I'd tell you if we had a magic wand, certainly for American Airlines, and something which is more salient for this, the thing that we would probably most want to understand is actually how the servicing experience works. Because when you think about when a customer is going through the actual servicing experience, what is it that they are doing and thinking along the way? And I say that because certainly in air travel, there's an inherently high touch, high variability sequence of events, right? From the time you check in, you go through the airport, you go through the TSA. If you sort of take the human out of it, and if you thought of it like a production process, there's a lot of steps. It's actually a lot of moving parts, right? There's a lot of variables, just as there would be in assembling a car or anything else. But when you're assembling a car or something, you can go measure every single thing that's happening. The car isn't going to tell you how it feels along the way. It doesn't need to stop to get a coffee or use the restroom, but the customer does. And it's in those moments, like your moment, Alex, where good service delivered at the right time has a game-changing effect. And we can measure it after it's happened. We can measure that there was weather in Dallas this morning. When people were reaccommodated proactively, they had a better NPS score. When it was done digitally and they got the even better NPS score. We can see that, but along the way in the journey, that would be great, because we have a fundamental thing where in a given airport, there may be hundreds, if not thousands of people, depending on the airport. They can go help lots of Alexes. How do we send them to the right place?
That's right. That's great. Thank you. Well, I think we're at time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Vasu.
Hey, it was great to be here, guys.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you all. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Vasu.
Thank you.
Thank you.